It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
This is your 420 Radio News for Thursday, September 11th, 2014. Colorado not suffering buyer's remorse over legal marijuana, poll finds from the Huffington Post. A new NBC News Marist poll shows that 55% of adult Colorado residents back the law that legalized the regulated use, possession, and sale of cannabis by adults. The poll found that 41% oppose the law, including 8% who said they are actively trying to overturn the legislation. Asking a differently phrased question about retail marijuana in the state, other surveys have found similar levels of support. In February, a Quinnipiac poll found that 58% of state voters supported marijuana legalization. A March survey from Public Policy Polling finds that 57% of Colorado voters are still in favor of legal cannabis. Parents make the case for medical marijuana in Georgia from 11alive.com. Georgia lawmakers held a hearing Wednesday in Macon to gather information about medical marijuana and help determine whether to legalize it in the state. Efforts to pass legislation to legalize medical marijuana failed last year, but parents are determined to fight for a different outcome. Lawmakers heard story after story from parents desperate for treatment for their children's medical conditions. Aaron Kleppinger, who moved his family to Colorado to get medical marijuana for his son Hunter, says it's had a dramatic effect on his seizures. Quote, "In Georgia, we got an average of 1 to 2 EMS calls every month saying the school was calling EMS for a seizure that lasted beyond 5 to 10 minutes, said Kleppinger. In Colorado, not one, end quote. The panel heard a similar story from an Atlanta police officer who said his 11-year-old son is 85% seizure-free under cannabis therapy. The panel is expected to make recommendations to the legislature during the next session. What does Lancaster City marijuana resolution mean? From WGAL.com. Lancaster City Council gave a unanimous vote Tuesday night to a resolution supporting a change in state law that would allow medical marijuana use. Decriminalizing marijuana was dropped from the resolution that the City Council passed Tuesday night. Now, councilmen hope their vote sends a message to the state capitol. That's where the state Senate could take up legalizing medical marijuana next week. State Republican Mike Fulmer is behind the state's medical marijuana bill. The law would carve out room for anti-seizure marijuana oils and prohibits smoking pot with a prescription. Fulmer hopes support from a city of 60,000 will make an impact with lawmakers. Governor Corbett says he will not sign the bill if it lands on his desk. Ed Fitzgerald endorses medical marijuana in naked last-ditch ploy for votes, from clevelandscene.com. Yesterday, Ed Fitzgerald gave a phone interview to the Cincinnati Enquirer in which he came out in favor of legalizing medical marijuana in Ohio. This news comes just days after one poll showed that Fitz, the current Cuyahoga County executive and Democratic candidate for governor, was trailing Governor John Kasich by 19 points. John Kasich, along with plenty of Republicans and just about every other elected official in Ohio, is on the other side, saying the science doesn't support medical marijuana. Nevertheless, some 87% of Ohioans support legalizing medical marijuana, according to a Quinnipiac poll. Pot producers add demand on Northwest power grid, from the Albuquerque Journal. As more marijuana producers move their plants indoors over the next 2 decades, the grow operations in Washington state are expected to need as much electricity each year as what a small Northwest city consumes, according to an energy forecast by regional power planners. Demands on the Northwest electrical grid would grow further if Oregon voters pass a ballot initiative in November to legalize recreational pot use, the Northwest Power and Conservation Council said. Alderman wants mandatory drug testing for ride-sharing drivers, from the Chicago Sun-Times. Chicago drivers for Uber, Lyft, and other ride-sharing companies would be subject to annual drug testing under a crackdown proposed Wednesday by Southside Alderman Roderick Sawyer, who introduced an ordinance that would require drivers to be tested annually prior to license renewal. Drivers who test positive for drugs would be barred from operating a ride-sharing vehicle for at least 1 year. They would not be allowed to return until they pass another drug test. Alderman Roderick Sawyer is known for his support of the Chicago taxicab industry. This has been your 420 Radio News for Thursday, September 11th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville.